Do you ever notice how Canada always smiles on the outside, maple syrup, free healthcare, snow angels, but behind closed doors, something big's happening? A leaked report just exposed the truth. Canada is quietly panicking. Their population's aging faster than they can replace it. Industries are begging for workers, and guess who's keeping their economy alive? Filipinos. From nurses to engineers to caregivers, Canada's hidden report admits it. Without Filipino talent, the system cracks. So before you scroll away, stay with me, because what Canada's planning next could open doors most Filipinos never thought possible. If you're interested in this topic, hit the like button, subscribe, and type interested in the comments, and I will give you a heart. Canada has always worn a clean smile, polite, calm, and quietly powerful. But behind that image, a confidential report slipped out, and it revealed a truth most Canadians would never admit out loud. Their entire economy is quietly being held up by Filipinos. This isn't a theory, it's a leaked internal briefing from Ottawa's employment department that outlines one hard fact. Canada's labor force is collapsing faster than it can recover. Birth rates have hit record lows, retirees are outpacing new workers, and by 2030, over 9 million Canadians will be over the age of 65. It's almost a quarter of the country. The report called it an economic emergency, but what it really meant was this: without migrant workers, especially Filipinos, Canada's system starts to break. You see, over the last decade, Filipinos have quietly become the backbone of Canada's workforce. From hospitals to oil fields, from Vancouver kitchens to Toronto care homes, Filipinos are the invisible machinery keeping the country running. The government's own statistics show that nearly 1 out of every 20 healthcare workers in Canada is Filipino. The number doubles when you include those working under temporary or live-in caregiver visa. Think about that. Tens of thousands of Filipinos keeping the elderly alive, the hospitals functioning, and the families cared for. Let me tell you something real. In Calgary, there's a nurse named Joanne. She's been working double shifts since 2020, watching Canadian nurses quit from burnout while she stays. "I can't afford to stop," she once told a coworker, because back home, stopping means hunger. Her story isn't on the news, but there are thousands of Joannas across Canada, steady, unseen, carrying an entire system on their shoulders. The leaked report even highlighted this exact group, noting how Filipino workers show the lowest turnover rate of any foreign labor group. Translation: they stay, they commit, they save Canada money. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. The same report warns that without a surge of new immigration from places like the Philippines, Canada will face what it called a functional collapse in critical sectors, healthcare, construction, and food supply within the next 5 years. In simpler terms, if Filipino workers stop coming, parts of Canada stop working. And yet, the irony is painful. The same people saving Canada's future are leaving their own country's potential behind. Every nurse, every engineer, every skilled worker leaving for better pay abroad is a reminder of how the Philippines continues to export its best, not because it wants to, but because it has to. Canada's gain is, in many ways, the Philippines' quiet loss. But Filipinos don't just fill jobs, they build bridges. They're sending over $2 billion, 0 cents a year, back to the Philippines in remittances from Canada alone. That money feeds families, funds schools, and fuels small businesses. And while politicians debate policies, it's these quiet sacrifices that keep two nations economically tied together. Now here's where it gets interesting. The report wasn't just a warning, it was a blueprint. It recommended expanding the caregiver and healthcare immigration streams, fast-tracking Filipino applicants, and even forming bilateral labor deals directly with Manila. That's right. Canada doesn't just want workers anymore, it wants partnerships. It wants an entire generation of Filipino professionals to build its future. The question is, will Filipinos realize just how much leverage they now have? Because whether you're a nurse in Quezon, an engineer in Iloilo, or a caregiver in Alberta, the truth is the same. You are no longer optional. You are essential. And if Canada's hidden report proves anything, it's this: the future of one of the world's most developed countries now depends on the resilience, skill, and heart of the Filipino people. So before we even get to what Canada plans to do next, ask yourself this: what happens when the world's politest nation admits it can't survive without you? If you believe it's time the world recognize the Filipino workforce for what it truly is, a global lifeline, hit that like button and drop respect in the comments. Because this story is only getting bigger, and what comes next will reveal just how much power Filipinos really hold in shaping the future of Canada. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Canada isn't looking for workers anymore. It's looking for lifelines. Behind all the polite press releases and smiling politicians, a quiet panic is setting in. Canada's economy is aging faster than its population can replace itself. Factories are empty, hospitals are short-staffed, farms are begging for hands. And when that leaked report said, without sustained immigration, key sectors face irreversible collapse, it wasn't exaggerated. In plain English, it meant Canada's future depends on one nation's people more than any other, the Philippines. Let's talk numbers first. By 2025, Canada's working age population, ages 15-64, will shrink by nearly 600,000 people. At the same time, its senior population will grow by 1.3 million. That's a crisis. Less people working, more people needing care. Guess who's filling that gap? Filipino caregivers, nurses, and skilled workers. As of this year, over 957,000 job vacancies remain unfilled nationwide. And out of all the foreign nationals applying to fill them, Filipinos have the highest retention rate and employment success. But statistics only tell part of the story. The real story lives in places like Vancouver, Alberta, and Winnipeg, communities where the sound of laughter at 7 p.m. comes not from Canadian families, but from Filipino nurses walking home in groups after long shifts, carrying leftover food from the hospital cafeteria because sayang to waste good food. There's Ella, a Filipino nurse who left Quezon City in 2018. She now works in Edmonton, managing an entire ward because Canadian nurses keep quitting. She's not bitter, she's proud. They trust us more now, she says, adjusting her ID badge with a smile. We just don't complain, we work. That's the secret Canada discovered. While their own citizens step away from hard jobs, Filipinos step in with commitment, and that commitment is now priceless. But then, here's where it gets heavy. The more Canada depends on Filipino labor, the more it exposes a painful reality. This isn't just a labor issue, it's survival math. The aging crisis isn't coming, it's here. For every Canadian nurse retiring, only 0.7 are graduating to replace them. You can't run a hospital like that. You can't sustain an economy like that. So now the Canadian government is quietly expanding immigration targets. 1.5 million new arrivals between 2024 and 2026. And a growing chunk of that number is expected to come straight from the Philippines. But here's the irony Canada won't admit. They need Filipinos to stay, but they also need the Philippines to keep producing them. It's a strange dependency. One country's opportunity becomes another country's loss. Because while Canada thrives, the Philippines bleeds talent. Engineers, nurses, teachers, exported like gold, mined from a nation that never gets to keep its riches. Still, the relationship isn't just one-sided. Canada's Filipino diaspora has become an economic powerhouse. Over $2.3 billion, 0 cents in annual remittances flow back to the Philippines from Canada alone. That's more than the GDP of some small nations. The global system may look unfair, but it's real. And Filipinos have learned to turn survival into strategy. Now here's the twist. According to internal government projections, Canada's next 5 years will depend not only on Filipino workers, but on Filipino migration families. They're not just bringing labor, they're bringing life. Younger families, more children, more tax-paying citizens. Canada's future classrooms, cities, and industries will literally be powered by Filipino DNA. Let that sink in. The next chapter of Canada's story, the teachers, nurses, entrepreneurs, maybe even future politicians, will be Filipino-Canadian. The very people they once labeled as temporary foreign workers are now becoming the cornerstone of their national survival. And here's where the emotional punch lands. Every time a Filipino caregiver tucks in an elderly Canadian to sleep, it's not just compassion. It's contribution. Every child of an OFW growing up in Toronto is a seed of transformation. Because whether Canada wants to admit it or not, Filipinos aren't just part of their economy anymore, they're part of their identity. Still, something deeper is brewing. The report hinted at it, but didn't dare spell it out. If Canada ever stops attracting Filipino labor, its social systems collapse within a decade. That's the level of dependency we're talking about. So the next time someone in Canada calls Filipino workers lucky to be there, remember, luck goes both ways. Canada's luck is spelled Filipino. If you're watching this and you've ever sent money home, cared for someone abroad, or simply carried your country's pride in your work, this story is yours. Comment essential below because what's coming next reveals the truth the report didn't dare publish. How Canada's future, and maybe the world's, is being quietly rewritten by Filipinos. The truth is, Canada's secret report didn't just expose a country's weakness. It revealed a global shift that every Filipino, whether at home or abroad, needs to understand. Because this isn't just about jobs, visas, or remittances anymore. It's about power. Quiet, unspoken, but real power. The kind that comes when an entire nation realizes the world can't function without its people. Think about it. 10, 20 years ago, Filipinos left home chasing stability. Now, countries are chasing Filipinos from London to Dubai to Toronto. It's no longer, do you have experience, but can we get more people like you? Canada's report didn't say it with emotion, but the numbers screamed it loud enough. The Philippines has become the world's most reliable human resource engine. Skilled, English-speaking, hardworking, and adaptable. That's not flattery, that's fact. And it's reshaping global economies in ways no politician dares to say out loud. Take the healthcare crisis. Across Canada, nearly 40% of nursing homes rely on Filipino caregivers. In some regions, it's higher. During the pandemic, when hospitals were short-staffed and fear was everywhere, guess who stayed? Filipino nurses. When Canadian staff resigned, guess who took their shifts? Filipino nurses again. The leaked report highlighted that retention rates among Filipino workers were 48% higher than the national average. That's not just loyalty, that's legacy. But here's the part that hits home. While Filipinos are out there saving lives, building bridges, and holding foreign economies together, many still feel unseen. You could walk through downtown Toronto or Calgary and see Filipino workers on every corner, yet most don't even realize they are witnessing the quiet heroes of a nation's survival strategy. And yet, those same workers, the caregivers, welders, cleaners, nurses, and engineers, are sending hope back home every payday. Over $38 billion, 0 cents, in global remittances from Filipinos every year, and Canada alone contributes over $2 billion, 0 cents of that. Every dollar goes back into families, schools, food, and futures. Every sacrifice feeds a nation that, ironically, should never have had to let its best people go in the first place. Still, let's pause here, because this isn't a sad story. It's a turning point. The power dynamic is shifting. Canada may need Filipinos now more than ever, but this time, Filipinos know their worth. They're no longer just workers, they're partners, negotiators, change makers. The next generation of Filipino Canadians won't just serve the system, they'll shape it. Take Catherine, for example. She arrived in Ontario 8 years ago as a caregiver. Today, she runs a small home care business employing 20 other Filipinos. Her clients are Canadian seniors who now depend entirely on Filipino compassion. When I asked her how she built it, she said something simple but powerful. We took care of them when they needed help. Now they take care of us. That's not just a quote. That's the future unfolding in real time. But here's the irony that should wake up every Filipino back home. The same countries that once looked down on migrant labor are now drafting policies to recruit them. In 2025, Canada introduced the Strategic Skills Expansion Act, designed to attract even more Filipino healthcare and construction professionals. Their target? 50,000 new Filipino arrivals per year, nearly double the previous intake. That's not charity. That's survival strategy disguised as opportunity. So what does this mean for you watching this right now? It means you hold value beyond what you imagine. Whether you're an OFW, a nurse in training, or a student dreaming of Canada, the world isn't doing you a favor, it's competing for you. But here's the bigger truth. The Philippines shouldn't have to keep exporting its greatness. One day, the same strength that built foreign nations could rebuild its own. Because the Filipino spirit, resilient, creative, and relentless, was never meant to serve quietly forever. And maybe, just maybe, this leaked report isn't Canada's confession, it's a global reminder. A reminder that Filipinos aren't just workers, they're the heartbeat of economies, the thread that stitches nations together. So the next time you see a Filipino caregiver pushing a wheelchair through snow, a nurse saving a patient in the ICU, or a welder building Canada's skyline, remember, the world isn't saving them, they saving the world. If you're proud to be part of a people who turn sacrifice into strength, hit that like button and comment pride below. Because this story isn't over. The next chapter is already being written by Filipinos who no longer wait for recognition, they create it.